Welcome to episode 4 of 28 Days of Color presented by STEAM Engine Academy. Our topic today, color in sports. We start off with a discussion of Jackie Robinson with our STEAM Engine Academy teacher, Stephanos. Then next, we'll have an interview from Stephisha Ycoy-Walton as she discusses the role sports has played in her life. Stay tuned.
Jackie Robinson was born January 31st, 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. The youngest of 5, his mother and his siblings moved to Pasadena, California when he was a child. Inspired by his older brother who won a silver medal in the 1936 Olympics, Jackie went on to pursue sports at a young age. Jackie first went on to play for Pasadena Junior College and eventually moved on to UCLA, the University of Los Angeles. He was the first player in UCLA history to win a letter in 4 sports: baseball, basketball, football, and track. Unfortunately, due to financial hardships, he was unable to graduate because he had to help his family. After college, we moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, where he went on to play for the Honolulu Bears. After spending some time in Hawaii, he moved back to Los Angeles, where he played for the LA Bulldogs. Jackie's athletic career was cut short as World War II had happened and Jackie went on to become a second lieutenant in the Army. In 1943, Jackie would eventually be relocated to Fort Hood, Texas, where he would serve as a second lieutenant at the segregated all-black 761st Black Panther Tank Battalion. It is at this time where Jackie's military career would take a turn, as an incident on a bus ride where he refused to give up his seat and move to the back would lead to his unfortunate end early military career. Jackie would be transferred to the 758th Battalion, where his commanding officer would try to pursue court-martial and punitive military action. Despite all of this, Jackie would go on to receive an honorable discharge from the military service in 1944. After leaving the military, Jackie would go on to play for the Negro League's Kansas City Monarchs. It is at this time that Jackie runs into branch manager and the manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey. It is at this time that Branch Rickey, the general manager and club president of the Brooklyn Dodgers, would seek out talent from other minor league players and African American players. Rickey first signs Robinson to the Montreal Royals, promising a debut in 1947. And on April 15th, 1947, Jackie Robinson would make his debut as the MLB's first ever African American baseball player for the Brooklyn Dodgers as their first baseman. 2 years later, in 1949, Jackie Robinson's skills would be acknowledged as he is the National League's MVP Player of the Year. Jackie would lead the Dodgers in their 1955 World Series and would go on to win 5 more World Series as his time. Jackie would go on to retire in 1957 with a batting average of .311 and 137 home runs. At a time when racial segregation was still commonplace and integrated sports teams, even schools at this time, were difficult to even come across, Jackie Robinson broke the racial barrier by being one of the first players in a league that was largely just for whites. Jackie's stoicism and his determination in the face of a racially charged and racially segregated time are an inspiration for several baseball players, from Barry Bonds to Ken Griffey Jr. all the way to the present day.
Welcome back to 28 Days of Color. Today we are speaking with Stephisha Ycoy-Walton for Color in Sports. How are you, Stephisha?
Man, I'm blessed. Thanks for having me. This is a total privilege.
Well, we wanted to get into what that jersey is behind you. So tell us, what is your sport of choice and how long have you been playing?
Well, my sport of choice is basketball, and it's ironic because this is a football jersey, but it still depicts competitive nature in life, right? So basketball is my sport of choice, and I've been playing and in the realm of basketball since I was 8 years old. So third grade.
That is quite a while. Time for you to build your talent and get to be a master at what you do, I'm sure. So tell me about your athletic journey. Where did it start and where did it lead to?
Man, well, if I could be totally honest, at first I didn't see it as basketball being the thing that I would do like forever or be involved with, but it kind of started with this small league called NJB in Vallejo, and we used to wear like these blue uniforms. Everybody had blue uniforms, and then we switched to having blue and gold, so that was awesome. But NJB is like a small little neighborhood league, and it's specifically for kids who really just want to learn the skill set. So I started there, and then I had the opportunity to play for a summer organization, like an AAU organization. It's called Bay Area Magic, and it was founded and ran by a man by the name of Ray Jackson. So just with his help and the help of all the staff, Leroy Hurt, Dante, everybody there, I was able to get a college scholarship. So between playing, NJB, between playing AAU basketball, I also went to St. Patrick, St. Vincent High School, my first 3 years of high school, then transferred, went to Vallejo High my last year. So then after that, I took the scholarship and just grateful to have had the opportunity to go to college and play. I went to Oregon State out of high school, so grateful for the opportunity to compete in the Pac-10. And, ultimately I finished school at Cal Poly Pomona, but it was an amazing trajectory. Sometimes you do 4 years at one school and then other times you transfer, but either way, just the opportunity to go was amazing to me.
Right. I agree with that. And so what is your involvement in sports now? And what capacity do you work in athleticism?
Man, well, now that you ask, I'm super excited just about what we're doing now. And I say we because I've come to realize, like in my adult life, like it's literally not just me. It's like a whole community of people, right? So I work in basketball in the realm of coaching as well as mentoring, and specifically mentoring on leadership development skills. So I am the assistant coach at Fremont High School in Oakland, California, behind Nola Taylor. She's a retired professional basketball player as well. And, she came back to her home community, which was Oakland, to give back. And she brought me on staff last year. So it's just been amazing for the last year getting, tapped in and tuned in with Nola and Coach Scott, who's the AD over there. And then, just me personally, when COVID hit, I realized that our scholar athletes, they wouldn't have a whole lot to hold on to if they actually don't have sports. And if you think about it, for me, showing up to school every day, it was not so hard. However, it was easier because I had the opportunity to play basketball after school, at practice, at those games. And so just being able to kind of recreate that, but for the kids who can't go play because during COVID, we're 6 feet apart, and so because we can't play, we still have to keep the minds going and we still have to keep them engaged. So Playbook Series Inc. is our nonprofit organization that we started specifically to bridge the gap for high school student athletes and then also to help them get to college. And we realized that scholar athletes may not exactly go to college. They may decide an alternative career path, but what can we do to help them be successful? What can we do to help, lay a foundation? So we decided that leadership was the most important component. And so with Playbook Series Inc., catered to our scholar athletes, basketball is the first sport that we're implementing in the program. It's really just to show our scholar athletes and the kids in our community how to be leaders. So because I was given great leadership fundamentals, I felt that it was my duty, my right, and my privilege to be able to bring it back. So that's what I'm doing now with the help of several other organizations. So I'm so excited about that.
So how has your college experience and kind of working to play at that level influenced the way you're structuring Playbook Series and your goals for your students?
That's a great question, and thanks for asking that. I actually love to talk about that. So my trajectory, it was a little different, so to speak. So I'll be totally honest. It took me 6.5 years to get a 4-year degree, and I'm proud because I finished, right? However, I don't want our kids to have that same trajectory. So we had to find like a streamlined path for them. And so for me, looking at all the different steps that I took, looking at writing the personal statements, looking at getting the letters of recommendation, looking at doing the community service to show that I actually have my hands in my community. Those things are so important, but nowadays we really don't even talk or preach about them like we should. Most kids want us to just kind of don't say anything, but we should say everything when it comes to stuff like that, because those are the things that allow employers as well as college admissions boards to see the value in the student, and not just the student, but them as a person. So when I look at the things that I did that my mother had me do, sitting down at the table, handwriting letters to universities, right, just to show my interest, those are all the things we've incorporated into our leadership program, along with one-on-one mentoring to help our student athletes stay connected. So I definitely think that my foundation and my trajectory plays a path in it, because without those skills, I don't think that I would have taken the extra steps after college without an agent to get myself contracts to play overseas. Like, the only reason I had the opportunity to play was because I was a leader in my own right. And I said, well, if I don't have anyone to lead me that way, I'm going to create a path and do it myself. So not to stand on my own shoulders, but that's what I did. And I'm thankful for the people who helped me lay the foundation to start.
And more than even just getting them to the level they want to be at with their athleticism and their education, but in the Black community itself, before they even get that far, what are some of the benefits you've noticed to getting involved in sports for the Black community?
Oh my gosh, self-esteem and confidence for one. Like, the only way we become successful and productive citizens of society is if we become confident. And then I realized the only way that you breed confidence in a person is if you breed competence in them first. And so when we look at that, we have to help our scholar athletes and ourselves become competent in the things that are truly, truly important. Because think about it. The more you know about something, don't you feel confident when you speak about it? Like, don't you feel a little bit better to share the information, or even take a step to do something more if you know more about it, if you're more competent about it? So for me, I see our kids gaining more competence within themselves, just in terms of what they're able to do. I see them gaining confidence because everybody wants to know that, hey, I've done something successful, and this might be a little bit hard, but because I was successful at that, I'm sure this will be, successful too. And if it's not, I'll try again. I can, I will, I must, I'll do again, right? And so we continue to say that because it's really just knowing that somebody has your back. So for our scholar athletes, just showing them that, hey, you may not make it to play professionally, but do you want to be a sportscaster? Do you love to talk? Do you love medicine? Maybe you could be a sports doctor, or maybe you like personal training. You could be a personal trainer within the world of athletics. So for us, it's building those connections and really just opening up those brain waves about the things that they can connect to before they transition out of high school. So for me, just really seeing the focus in the classroom translate, back onto the court, and really just showing our scholar athletes how to be leaders and to step outside of themselves and into someone else. You see a level of compassion raised. And I think just outside of sports in general, we just need that in life. We have to learn to be more compassionate and more patient. I know me, for one, it was a process to learn that, and I'm still learning, but to be able to show other people that is just as beneficial. So I pray that we continue to be a blessing to kids and put a program in place that they can benefit from, because it's necessary.
I appreciate that you're doing this and all the people that are doing it with you, because even as a mom of a son who loves his basketball, I look forward to helping him get in touch with you and work with you on his leadership too. I'm really excited to see him grow with Playbook Series Inc.
Well, it's reciprocated because, I have a 6.5-year-old son. He does French immersion. Organizations like S.T.E.A.M Engine Academy are beyond phenomenal for things like that. You think about the fact that you have a staff of teachers who are putting out their time and really attention for these kids who can't have the same level of education that they would have if they were going to a campus every single day. You know what I mean? Like, that's major. You have, teachers like Stephanos Mukendi who are bilingual and they can teach in multiple languages. For my son, he's French immersion. So whereas most kids learn in English and in Spanish, he's learning in English and in French. Now, I mean, yo hablo poquito español, pero no hablo francés. Like, I do not speak French. And that's probably about the most Spanish you'll get from me in terms of really being super fluent. You see, so for me to have organizations like STEAM Engine Academy, it bridges the gap. So for us to just scale up with organizations like yours, it's a privilege for us, truly, because you fill the gap that we don't have the skill set to, and vice versa. It's a give and take, you know? Most people think of reciprocity in a way of like, okay, I did something for you, scratch my back. No, it's not that. It's reciprocity like, hey, let's reciprocate this. Like, I have this, but I want to give it to you. Yeah. And you're like, I have this, let me give it to you. And who does it benefit?
The kids. And that's what we need. Yeah. But that's not all you've been up to. I want to know about the book you authored.
Yes. So, okay. I'm excited. So the book is really just, it's self-titled just based on the organization, the Playbook, because, okay, to connect it to this jersey a little bit, right? So when you think about it, your coach, like the best coaches in the world, any coach that you've ever had, they give you a playbook at the beginning of the season. It has offense, defense, special teams. It has everything you need, right? But when you learn those plays, what does the coach say when you're done? Run it. And they tell you to run it because, hey, this is a fail-proof plan. If you run it the way that we tell you to run it, that's what's going to happen. Like, you're going to get success. So the Playbook, which is the book that's being authored, is amazing because it's a compilation of all the great minds that I've had the opportunity to be mentored with and affected by. So if I think of college coaches, AAU coaches, high school coaches, rec league coaches, if I think of players I played against, players I played with, people who interviewed me, I was able to reach out to these people and just ask them. So I just want to ask you, what made you want to be a mentor? What has your experience been in the world of sports? And if you could give the next generation or the current generation just one major piece of advice, what would it be? Could you just write a letter from your heart to the student athlete of your dreams and just give them the best piece of advice that you can? And so that was the premise of the book. And so when we started writing, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, this is going to be great. But then as we started to receive all of the submissions, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be spectacular. And so we have Division I college coaches. We have coaches that are, professional, retired. We have players who are professionally retired. We have high school coaches. We have perspective from all over. And for me, it's big because the student athlete and then the scholar athlete, and we can explain the difference, but they have to be able to pull these tools out of their bags at the drop of a dime because they might need to relate in a moment of adversity. And that little book right there with all of those experiences will let them know that somebody's been where they're already at. They've already come through it, and look at what they got when they came through it. It's absolutely amazing, right? So the goal is really just to just breathe life, breathe hope, breathe love into our kids. And even during a hard time, just let them know that it is beyond possible for you to really do what it is that needs to be done in order for you to be successful. So we tie it into this right here, and I just think about it because business in itself is all about how good can you run the play that's been put in front of you. Right. So when I ultimately got into financial services, which was in 2013, it was right after I got rejected after applying to medical school in 2012, right? But I applied again in 2013 and I was accepted to American University of Antigua. And that's in the Caribbean. And I was super excited about going, but then I got a call from a team in Puerto Rico. And they were like, hey, do you want to come play professionally? I was like, oh my gosh, Puerto Rico? Yes, I'm going. Hey, right, let's hop the plane. And then my brother-in-law, he was so particular on making sure that myself and his sister, who's currently my wife now, 7 years, he was so particular of making sure that we had our finances in place. So he asked to sit down with us. And during that appointment, he recruited me because he showed me the process of really managing a financial portfolio. So fast forward a year, hence 2014, we were named one of the top producers in all of the representatives in the company. And there's currently 124,000 representatives with Primerica as a company. So if you fast forward to 2017, we were promoted to regional vice presidents, which allowed us to then be in charge of our own brokerage. And at that point, we then were given the opportunity to sponsor other individuals to get licensed through the Department of Insurance for life insurance, investments, mortgage loan originators, things like that. So for me, working with this company has been all competition. It's just like sports. It's just like playing like in the NCAA or playing professionally, because you get to compete. And then when you do amazing, look at the stuff that they give you. It makes me feel like I'm back on the court or back on the training field again, you know? So, I mean, that's all I've been up to. Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot. No big thing. That's
not a whole lot. Hey, it's all things that benefit other people. Why don't we wake up every day, you know?
What are we doing today? What are we doing that's going to help someone in the community? Every day there's something we can contribute. And you know, you're talking about in your book that you're talking to a few people out there that are really important, that have really good experiences to offer, but you have that experience to offer too. So I want to give the question to you.
Okay.
For those athletes who are aspiring to play at a college level or professionally, what is the advice that you have for them?
Attitude is everything, and being world class is better than being number one. So those are the two pieces of advice that I would give. So number one, attitude is everything. So the reason that attitude is everything is simply because you can be placed in a horrible situation, but with an amazing attitude, and you can transition the outcome, right? Or you could be placed in a phenomenal situation with a really crappy attitude, and you totally lose out on every opportunity that you were given. So attitude is absolutely everything. And that just ties into being world class. So you never know what situation you might find yourself in, but presenting as though you are already where you want to be is the way that you ultimately make it to where you want to be. Because your shortcomings are only shortcomings to you. You are the only person who can judge you outside of your maker. So for you to feel short within yourself is going to present outside of you. So you have to stand tall and you have to feel world class, because that's how you show other people that you believe in yourself, which is why they should believe in you too. So besides, you know, just having a great attitude, being world class, I'd say the last thing is just really being transparent. And if you can be transparent in nature to the point where you understand that other people's feelings matter, but yours do too, and you can have, you know, productive and progressive conversations with people, you never know whose path you might change, and even better, you never know who might change your path. So I just think those three things make an ultimate leader, and for me, those three things are just the epitome of any bit of advice that I could give a person, like really and truly.
Right. I love listening to you speak and seeing all this passion come out of you. And I'm proud to say that I have known you since you were 6 years old, since we were 6 and you are exactly the same and just as passionate and enthusiastic as you were then. It has been absolutely wonderful having you on here and getting to share your story. And I can't wait to work with you more in the future.
Likewise. Thank you so much for your time. Let me thank you for what you are doing. I think your presence in the community, and I mean this wholeheartedly, your presence in the community and the way that you love on children should be an example to everybody of how not only they should love on their own children, but how they should love on children that they did not give birth to. To be a teacher and get paid less than what you should as a teacher, teachers should get paid more than every other profession in the world, because they're who teach
Feel
teach
it.
how to do what the profession is. You see what I'm saying? So from me to you, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for what you've built. And thank you for taking the time to recognize other people who are building in the same trajectory and path as you are. Because we're following you, girl. We are coming. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephisha. I
Thank you.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you. From Farragut all the way to the front of the line, girl. We doing it.
Already.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Finishing off today's episode, Color in Sports, we're going to read about Stephen Curry, the boy who never gave up. This book was written by Anthony Curcio. Hope that you enjoy his story. We'll see you tomorrow. The Boy Who Never Gave Up. Stephen Curry, the children's book. After dinner one night, a boy sat down to do his homework. He just sat there staring at the table, daydreaming. "Mom, do you think I could play in the NBA like Dad?" The boy's mother looked at him with a smile and said, "If you practice enough, I think anything is possible. But for now, you need to finish your homework." When the boy finished his homework, he went outside and did what he always did. He played basketball. The boy played other sports too, but he loved basketball. Basketball was the only sport that really made him dream. The small boy dreamed of one day playing in the NBA. Starting at guard, number 30, Stephen Curry. Yeah! Ah! Stephen yelled in his best crowd-screaming voice. The problem was, Stephen was too small and too short. All the kids at school just knew that he was too little for the NBA, except for Stephen, of course. "One day, I'm going to play in the NBA, just like my dad." Ha 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 ha! The other kids at school laughed. "There is no way that you'll play in the NBA like your dad. He is so big and strong, and you are so small and weak." Despite his size, little Stephen kept playing. He became very skilled at dribbling and passing, but because the hoop was so high and he was so short, it was difficult for Stephen to shoot the ball when he was guarded closely. He was only 5 foot 6 inches tall and 125 pounds as a sophomore in high school. Because he was smaller, Stephen had to work harder and practice more. One day, Stephen's dad was watching him shoot baskets outside. He noticed how hard Stephen tried to always get better. "Son, you have more heart and determination than any other player I have seen. I know you are smaller than other players, so I want to teach you something that will help. The other kids may be taller, but if you bring up your shot and learn to shoot faster, they won't be able to stop you." Stephen did what he always did. He practiced. It wasn't easy changing the way he shot, but he kept working every day on what his dad had taught him. Although it wasn't work to Stephen because he loved basketball. When he practiced, he still dreamed of playing in the NBA. Starting at guard, number 30, Stephen Curry. The following year, all of his hard work showed on the court. His dad was right. The other players weren't able to stop him. Stephen led his high school team to 3 conference titles, earning himself several honors, including being voted one of the best players in the state. Stephen graduated from high school and was thinking about where he wanted to go to college. He only wanted to go to one school, Virginia Tech, where his dad had played. Stephen knew he could play there too. All he needed was for them to give him a chance. But they didn't. Virginia Tech and many other schools didn't think Stephen could play on their teams. They thought he was just too small and not strong enough. Except one coach at one small college. His name was Baugh, and he was the coach at Davidson College. Coach Bob saw what no one else could see. "Wait until you see Stephen Curry," is what he told everyone. Stephen Curry would not be stopped. He led his team past schools that were 10 times the size of Davidson College, all the way to the Elite Eight. Coach Bob was right. Wait until you see Stephen play. Stephen broke many records and won several awards. He even led the entire country in points scored per game. People who watched Stephen play in college started to see what Coach Bob could see. Many were beginning to believe what Stephen always believed about himself. But there were still many that said Stephen was just too small to play in the NBA. They said he got lucky, that he wasn't strong enough, that he wasn't good enough. They just kept talking and talking. But Stephen didn't listen. He was too busy winning the NBA's Most Valuable Player award twice, leading the league in scoring and steals, his team to NBA championships, pretty much breaking every three-point record that ever existed. Stephen was told he was too short in high school, too weak for college, and not good enough to play in the NBA. He has proven that never giving up is more important than being the biggest, the tallest, or even the strongest. But most importantly, Stephen Curry has proven that dreams come true. Stephen Curry, 6'3", 190 pounds. Never give up. The end.
Mas não vou sem te chamar na viagem. Espesso na viagem. Espesso na viagem. Espesso